Good morning. I spoke last night in our midweek service about a daily devotional that we're starting here at Holy Cross, about how even in this time of want, even in this time where so much has gone missing from our lives, God is still richly and deeply blessing us in ways that maybe we're uncomfortable with. How in this crisis, God is taking away many of the idols that we usually have in our life. Now, when I say idols, I don't mean something we literally bow down and worship, something we consciously replace God with and hold it up in our life. What I mean is things we tend to put our time, effort, energy, put our joy in besides God. Things that we worship in a sense of allowing them to be predominant in our life besides God. And when we structure it like that, we can think of all sorts of different things in our life that take place. And I'll start today with an easy one, but one that, as I've been talking with people, seems to be hitting quite hard. And personally, for me, it has been terrible these past few weeks. And honestly, that is sports. When I think over my life and think, what are the most joyous times I've had throughout my life? Obviously, there are big highlights like when I married Katie, when we got our calls both to New Orleans and here to Mobile. Some big monumental moments like that. But then my mind immediately goes to three particular instances. The first and maybe the highest when we were in South Florida, and I remember the day. It was in early December. We were watching on TV Michigan State play Ohio State. And I remember the moment where Jeremy Langford broke through the safeties, running to the end zone to cement what had been a fantasy of my dad, who had been deceased by then, and myself, what our dreams had been since I was a little boy, that Michigan State would make it to the Rose Bowl. And in that moment, it came true, and I had such immense joy. I remember sitting in a pub in Livonia, Michigan, when Landon Donovan scored the goal to send the U.S. through to the next round of the World Cup. I remember when I was a child in Spartan Stadium and Jeff Smoker rolled out to the right and threw a pass across his body to TJ Duckett as time expired to beat Michigan. Always great moments. I think of all these things that provided such joy that were so shallow, really, if we're honest. But now, as the virus has taken away all sports in the world, I think of a time that God has called to rededicate to Him, to look for joy in places where it cannot be taken away, where it doesn't end, in things that are solid and meaningful, not only in this life but the next. I look for joy and look for worship to the only one and thing that should be worshipped. Now, does that mean when sports eventually comes back, I won't fall right back into the same trap? Well, probably not. And I'm sure you can empathize, whether it was Alabama's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh national title in your lifetime, or any other moments. Sports tends to grab us as an idol. But in these times, God has replaced that with nothingness. Hopefully you haven't replaced it with turning on the news and watching nonstop coverage. But in these days, when we find so many things missing, look to turn those things we miss into an option for devotion, for relationship with God, as He's blessed us with more time and more headspace that we can do that in these days. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll be back here tomorrow to talk about another idol that maybe we've put in place. Go in peace and serve the Lord.